What's that? Alexa, stop. Why does it say 56:59? Am I running out of space? Ooh, that might be it. I might just be running out of space. Huh. On my phone? Do I have to, maybe I have to delete some things from my phone. Okay. That's cool. I just didn't want to do it really long. It's like every day to add to my autobiography, I try to think of something that I could actually post without getting myself on an FBI list for my life or put people to sleep. And it's hard. Work. Alexa, where is Soho?
Soho is a neighborhood located in London, England, United Kingdom. It is a vibrant area known for its eclectic mix of boutiques, galleries, and restaurants.
Okay. Because I was in Soho once. I saw Purple Rain there. It was a rainy day. When was it? It was October. I think it was November of 1984. Yeah, because it was right after the presidential election, and Reagan had been reelected, and I thought it was the end of the world, if you can imagine that. It's always the end of the world when a Republican gets elected president. That's been going on for quite some. That was 40 years ago. Okay, it was almost 40 years ago. This is a memory from 40 years ago. So I had. Can I tell this? Yeah, they gave me the student. It wasn't a loan, it was a Pell Grant. And I said, I paid for everything. And we were joking. I said, now don't go off to Europe because Reagan was saying people were going on vacations to Europe on their Pell Grants. So what did I do with my Pell Grant? Because I scrimped and I saved and I quit drinking beer. And I think I even went so far as to get a job. Well, that was later. Yeah, that's when I was really desperate. I didn't have grants. I ran out of grants. But anyways, that's exactly what I did. And I blame Ronald Reagan. I never would have done it if he hadn't given me the idea that people took advantage of him. But I mean, my tuition that year, this is the thing. This is the thing. I don't know if it's a crime, but this is the irony of the whole thing. My tuition had been, well, I had graduated. I had my degree. Okay. Yeah, so I was a college graduate. Officer, you can't arrest me. I'm a college graduate. And he almost did. And then he laughed. Yeah, see, I can be funny. Funny man. It's like I'm not strong. I'm not smart. How do I survive in this world? Evolution gave me the ability to be pathetic and make people laugh at me. And if people are laughing at you, you can run and hide someplace before they remember that they're angry. And there was some comedian that his father used to be rather physical with the children, and he would make his father laugh, and his father would be so angry at him, and then he'd forget because he was laughing at the antics. Was that Joe Pesci? Or was it Robin? I can't remember, but that's how he survived. Sometimes just being the court jester will help you to survive. So, anyways, that's what I did. I went to Europe. I went to Amsterdam and did Amsterdam-y things. Well, I didn't smoke marijuana because was I going through a religious period? Because I didn't do that. I don't even think I drank. Maybe I had a beer. I didn't do the hooker thing. Not that year. So there were a lot of things I didn't do. I was a very good boy. But I did go to France. Did I go up to the top of the Eiffel Tower? And I did a lot of French things because there was a Judy Collins song called "Wander Down the Champs-Élysées," and it inspired me. It inspired me to wander down the Champs-Élysées. I remember thinking that the red light district was just I was 25, so you'd think that I would find that place fantastic. I saw all these sad drug addicts. They looked so unhealthy. And the women in the windows that really didn't cost anything to look. But it just seemed like a very sad place. But that's the point of the red light district, which they're shutting down, by the way. because it's human trafficking and everything, which is very bad. But you concentrate, it's like a sewer pipe. You concentrate all your filth. But I walked around thinking, this must be the most enjoyable place in the world. And it was just sad. It was just sad. I had more fun going to the Louvre or the Eiffel. I was a free man in Paris. I felt unfettered and alive. There was no one calling me up for favors, no one's future to decide. And the Netherlands is a nice country, but I mean, you have to choose to go to the Rijksmuseum instead of. Um, yeah, and this one guy I was with, he was always commenting on the dog. That was the thing. He was always commenting about all the dog shit. All the things in Amsterdam. He was just obsessed with the fact that people had these huge dogs. And it was 40 years ago. People didn't pick up, not even in Amsterdam. They just left the dog shit on the street, and it was awful. It was pretty disgusting. Pretty disgusting. But I did make it to London. I remember a guy asking me for money, and I gave him £1, and he looked at me like I'd given him my fortune. He was one of these sad, Thatcher was in, and people were getting cut off welfare and had to get work. And some people just, I mean, they were lost. I think some people, they just need welfare because they can't make it on their own. But that's the bad thing about the welfare system. It makes people dependent. They have no idea how to take care of themselves. And most people, if you throw them off welfare, they'll land on their feet. They will. They'll land on their feet. They'll find a way to get by. There's something that they can do out there to beg, bear, borrow, and steal. But there's some people that just don't. They're just there is a, like I people say about 10 to 25% of the people on welfare belong on welfare, and the rest are just riding the system. Yeah, I don't want to say 10%, but I think it's about between 10 and 25%. There's a legitimate reason for them to be on welfare. And the rest, I mean, why work if you can just stay? Although it was so little. I mean, you really have to have low expectations in life to live on, especially in the United States, on welfare. It's enough to pay your rent and food, and it's a miserable existence. So most people cheat and do other things. But my time on welfare was not 50 years ago, but it was like 40 years ago. It was like a year while I wasn't trying to. I was not doing well. I was. I think I got sick in that abandoned building, is what it was, or I was just really mentally depressed, and I couldn't keep myself clean. I remember telling that. How the hell am I supposed to get a job? I can't even bathe properly. And they got me a hotel room, and then I got bugs in the hotel room. It's like, how do you stay? How do poor people even manage to maintain their clothing or get transportation? It's eventually I did. I went back to school, and I went to work for the Public Research Institute. And who else did I work? I worked for Voter Revolt. I must have worked for somebody else. Mervyn Field. I remember working for Mervyn Field, political consultants and Parallax. I sold flowers for a while in the 80s. That was just, I think it was Mother's Day, but I would sit by the side of the road. I was a bouncer. I was a bouncer for a while. That was the thing I did to make a living when I was in college. This guy ran like parties. It was between discos and raves, but he'd like rent out a hall and he'd get like one of those disco balls and he'd be like an MC. And I was a big guy. I was 6'4", 250 pounds, and my job was basically to stop people roughhousing. My job basically became keeping drunken guys from beating the crap out of their girlfriends. And why that was a thing? I guess that's always been a thing. I remember this one guy just grabbed his girlfriend and started shaking her like a rag doll. Why, I don't know. Was she talking to somebody else? Wasn't she paying attention to this baboon? And I just touched him on the shoulder thinking he's going to beat the crap out of me. But I had this leather jacket on and I had that hunting knife and the baseball bat in the corner. Didn't have a gun. Didn't believe in guns back then. Just had this nice little switch. It wasn't a hunting knife. It was like a little switchblade, little pocket knife kind of deal. I had to have something. I didn't pull it on him, but I kind of looked at him with this serious look because he was shaking this poor girl, and she didn't. Even if she'd done anything, and she hadn't done a damn thing, I think she just turned around and was talking to the wrong person. It wasn't even another guy. Why was he? It was. I mean, it's 40 years later. I can still remember what a fucking moron this guy was. I grabbed him by the shoulder, and I wasn't really a strong guy, but I used to swim and I used to wrestle, and I just grabbed him by the shoulder with. I was bullshitting, bluffing, and I just grabbed him by the shoulder. And says, "You do anything like that again, and you're out. I don't want to see you do anything like that." He says, "Don't even fucking try to argue with me. You know what you did. Don't do it again, or you're out of here." And I mean permanently. And it was a good act because he looked scared, which made me feel my ego feel good. But this guy was big. He could have taken me, but for some reason he figured I was just some kind of grizzled, hoodlum. Because I was dressed like a hoodlum. I was deliberately dressed like a hoodlum. I had a leather jacket, and I had these spikes. I had these punk rock. I was all done out with my punk rock spikes, and the safety pin through not through my ear, but the safety pin on it. Just anything that make me look tough. I look tough. But wait a minute, I was in London giving this poor. He was like Oliver Twist. I remember he looked like something from Oliver Twist. Some just poor. He was saying something about the dole and he couldn't get a job, and he didn't seem like a bad guy or a lazy guy. He just seemed to be lost. He seemed to be one of those people that was lost during Thatcherism because it was a transition from everybody being on the dole to everybody. You had to hustle because the economy was changing. A lot of people were able to make that transition and did well, and other people were just lost. And this was just a nice guy that just seemed, maybe he straightened himself out, but he just looked lost. He looked lost and he looked scared, and it was his country. And back then, a pound was a lot of. I don't know. Pound isn't shit now, but he looked at that pound note like I was Harry Truman giving Clement Attlee the Marshall Plan or something. And he says, "You're all right, right, Yank?" And I go buy yourself a cup of tea or a pint or whatever, and best of luck to you. I hope life treats you better. And I really meant that. I didn't know him, but he didn't look healthy. He looked cold and sick. And I just remember thinking how sad that was, that it was a modern industrial nation and people had to be suffering like that. Maybe it was a momentary thing, because things were changing. In the 80s, things were really bad and then they got really good for some people. But that was on the whole disparity thing. And you can't run a society like that. You can't run a society where a lot of people are not doing so well and a few people are sucking up all the bucks. I mean, you can say, oh, well, they're the ones doing the work. I don't even know if that's true, but even if it was, if you live in a society, people have to come to some kind of an agreement and live with each other and be kind to one another. And I'm not saying people have to be absolutely equal, but we have to come, it's like the difference between a society like, say, Hong Kong, which is probably the most capitalist place in the world, and some place like Denmark or Iceland. I mean, it's not like Belarus or the Soviet Union where the gray mother state owns everything and everybody's pretty much equally poor except for the Communist Party members who now are the oligarchs and own everything. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. We got to find a way to make our system whatever it is. I don't think Iceland is or Norway or any of those countries are socialist. In many ways, they're more capitalist than we are. For example, the Swedes have partially privatized their social security system. You can choose to put part of your social security taxes in a private fund and invest them. And the people that do actually end up with more retirement money. You don't have to. And even in Australia, where it's been privatized, there's a part of the system that exists. It's means tested. If for whatever reason people don't invest properly or something goes wrong, which it rarely does, there's a system that will catch them and will pay them at least as much as the mathematical algorithm for what the state system would have provided for them if the state system still existed. There is a state social security system, but it's augmented by superannuation, uh, union pension funds, like the equivalent of a 1040. What do they call the 401c? Alexa, what is a 401c3?
From Answers.com. A 401c3 is a classification of tax-exempt status.
No, that's not what I'm thinking of. 10. Alexa, what's a 1040?
Form 1040, officially, the U.S. Individual Income Tax Return, is an IRS tax form used for personal federal income tax returns filed by United States residents.
Alexa, what is a 401k?
According to an Alexa Answers contributor, 401k is reference to a bit of U.S. tax code which designates retirement funds which are tax deferred. That is, income tax is not paid on these funds when they are earned or result from capital gains or interest, but when they are withdrawn.
Okay, so the whole Australian social security system, not the whole thing, but 90% of it is like a 401k. Everybody has like a pension plan from their union, or say they're a doctor or some sort of trade association, whatever your line of work is, your craft, your skill. What do you call it? Like if you don't go to college, you get a trade, right? So, anyways, your trade association, maybe you're a hairdresser and there's a hairdressers fund. People get together and voluntarily create some sort of pension fund for people like them. I think the Dutch system works that way too, that it's been more or less privatized, that most of the Social Security money will go into investment funds. Now, that's risky and can go up and down. So, systems like Sweden and Australia are means tested. So, if for whatever reason your investment scheme did not work out that well, there's a safety net there to catch you. But what private, I hate to be arguing for privatization, because I know it's a dirty word. But the countries that have kind of mixed a state social security system with private investments, they found out people do better on overall 99 times out of 10 they do better with the private investments. But like in Australia, there's a state system set up just in case you fall through the cracks and your investments didn't pan out, or for whatever reason you evaded them. There's a means tested system to catch people that are poor, and that should be it. The social security system should be set up to provide insurance for old age, from alleviate poverty, because a lot of old people aren't poor. They manage to suck a lot of it, stack a lot, stuff a lot of it away, and they don't really need Social Security. Now, they paid into it, so it's not fair not to give them something. But I mean, means testing might be a way to go, and increasing more for the people on the bottom, and the people on the top not so much, because they're doing all right. But yeah, that's that. I guess that's my memory, being in Soho and seeing that poor guy. He looked hungry. Maybe he just needed another beer. I don't know. Sometimes people can fool you. But I gave him a pound note, and I remember the smile on his face, like he hadn't smiled since I don't know, Guy Fawkes Day. Who knows? When do the English smile? They're not really emotive people. But that's a memory from 40 years ago. I made somebody happy by giving them a pound. I'm not exactly a humanitarian for that. I'm not exactly the Bill Gates fund, but it's funny, the things you remember.